Are you a brewhead? I'm a brewhead. Are you a brewhead? I'm a brewhead. Y'all are brewheads? Yeah, we brewheads. So pour a glass of craft beer, we can do this. Yeah.
What's good, y'all? This is Cee Certified Brewhead, and welcome to episode 129 of Beer and Other Shit, the podcast Adjunct series. We are back in the building with another phenomenal episode. I'm excited for this one. But of course, as always, this episode is brought to you by the good, fine folks at Manscaped. You know the vibes every single week. I should have had the read up. Look at that. This is a public service announcement. Manscaped now has beard products and is going even further with their brand new Weed Whacker 2.0. Go ahead and tell the world the leaders in the below-the-waist grooming are traveling north of your South Pole with their revolutionary grooming products. The new Weed Whacker 2.0 and their new beard line confirms that they have the best tools for your hygiene toolbox. Time for you to upgrade your game by going to manscaped.com and use the code BAOS for 20% off plus free shipping. What a deal. So, this one is about the Weed Whacker 2.0. I've used the original one. Now, I don't have the 2.0 yet, but I'm going to touch on that plus the other beard products. So, gentlemen, meet the Beard Hedger Pro Kit. This is the ultimate package that makes it easier than ever to craft your signature look. It all starts with the cordless electric beard hedger. The beard hedger is this guy right here. It's tough on hair, but smooth on your face, leading to single stroke efficiency that brings satisfaction one stroke at a time. This waterproof cordless trimmer has a rotary wheel in the front here that gives you 20 hair cutting lengths. Look at that. All with one guide, so no more messy drawers full of extra add-ons. The Pro Kit also comes with 4 dermatologist-tested formulations for your post-trim care. This includes Manscaped's beard shampoo and conditioner, beard oil, and beard balm to moisturize, style, and shimmer your new beard. Plus, the kit has 3 free gifts, a beard brush, comb, and scissors. And I usually say this every week. This is the brush. Perfect. Give it a little 1-2 so I'm looking pretty for the pod. With a nice beard, your face is perfectly groomed, right? Wrong. You need to keep an eye out for those tough to trim ear and nose hairs. That's super important, folks. The brand new Weed Whacker 2.0 offers improved blades and skin-safe technology with no tugging guarantee, because that shit hurts. It's never been so painless to mind your manholes. I haven't read this one before. This is funny. Now that you have your face looking great, you must try Manscaped's Performance Package 4.0 for the full body grooming experience. And good news, the Performance Package 4.0 now comes with the Weed Whacker 2.0, the new guy, and all of the other below-the-waist grooming products Manscaped is known for. Your significant other will be delighted to see you covering all bases, if you know what I mean. So get 20% off and free shipping with our code BAOS at manscaped.com. That's 20% off and free shipping with the code BAOS at manscaped.com. Always use the right tools for the job with Manscaped. So with that, we are bringing in a brewery in Nathan's town of Ottawa. I was about to say hometown because that wouldn't be true. And this is a brewery I've been to a few times, always been a big fan. It's a great vibe. I feel like almost every trip I go to Ottawa, actually, at least recently, I always try to swing by to grab a pint, grab something to go. It's a vibe, and I'm excited to get the full story for the first time on the pod. So, folks, please welcome, of course, Nathan from NathanDoesBeer and BOS, and Rod and Dave from Flora Hall. Gentlemen, welcome. How you doing?
Welcome, fellas.
Good to be here. Good to be here, gents. Yeah.
Honor and a pleasure. Great to meet you both, and very excited to get into the brews and get to the story and hear all about it. So first things first, you guys want to tell us what we're kicking off with?
Yeah, we're going to kick off with the English Ordinary Bitter.
Let's go. Oh, where is he? Come on.
Boom.
Yeah.
Come on. There she is.
Oh, get your focus there. There we go.
Yeah, got it. Struggling. This gorgeous little can. Love this as a starting beer, and Dave, I hear this is a big fave for you, my friend.
It is a special beer. It's a beer that I grew up with as a person spending a lot of time over in the UK. And when Rod joined me as my founding brewer at Flora, he had a beautiful list of beers, and I said, the only thing I'd like you to, is it possible? Would you consider adding an English Ordinary Bitter to the list? And he's like, yeah, never brewed this before, but absolutely, I'll do that. And I'd say probably the greatest pleasure, the whole project, was just tasting that first bitter.
Wow.
Out of a fermenter. Rod standing there. I have my old English dad, who's now 91. He, at the time, was 86 or so. And we just tasted it, and it out of the park. Beautiful beer. It's been on since we started, and I love it. 3.5%. You can drink them all night. I've proven that many times over. And it's a fantastic beer. So thank you, Rod, for this beer. I love this beer.
It's perfect. First of all,
And it's a gorgeous one too. Like, look at that
pretty
color, and like absolutely crystal clear.
Cheers, legends.
It's a good looking beer.
Oh yeah.
That malt, that biscuit, that maltiness. It's every time I taste it, even though I've had plenty of them, it's just it
hits.
Tastes like the first time.
I love that. So this beer, was it modeled after any specific one that maybe that was like the benchmark for a beer like this at all?
Honestly,
so Rod, I sent him a couple. I just sent him a couple of things, couple of beers, and then he looked, and tasted them. But I'll let you talk about it because you made it. But I did. I said, this one, and this one are beers that I love, and take it away, Rod.
Yeah, for sure. I hadn't drank as much English Ordinary Bitter as Dave when I made this beer. I was out working in Vancouver when I first got the job here in Ottawa. So I was just talking to some brewers out there, and everyone I talked to said, I love that style. It's great style. I wish we could make it, but it doesn't sell. So, I was a little skeptical. But I just asked around, what's some good ingredients for an English Ordinary Bitter. So, Maris Otter base malt, a little bit of extra special caramel malt from Brice, a little bit of flaked oats, and a tiny bit of victory malt, and just kind of subtle amounts of all those malts, and probably about 26, 27 IBU, so not too bitter, and then just like a high mash temp to try and keep as much of that maltiness in there, like without getting too much alcohol. I kind of owe it to like all the brewers in Vancouver I kind of talked to and kind of put it together.
So you designed it while you were living out there?
Yeah. So I used to work. I was living in Vancouver, and actually was visiting Ottawa to go to a wedding, the wedding of the other brewer I work with now, Miles Dunn, who at the time was working at BAOS, and just really liked the beer scene out here while I was visiting. My wife and I and our new son were looking to get out of Vancouver, and we weren't really thinking about Ottawa, but just visiting a few breweries kind of got me thinking about Ottawa, and just kind of was lucky. Found Dave just online, who was looking for a brewer at the time. So
that's worked out perfect.
Yeah, I did. Yeah, the luck was absolutely mutual, and this beer is one that it is hard to sell to people who haven't had bitter before, and so we can sell it easily in our tap room, no problem, because you get past that. Well, I don't like bitter. I don't like things that are bitter, and you quickly get into a conversation about the beer and so forth. But we have a couple of licensees who sell this beer, and they were struggling, and we just simply, and I don't like this, but we did it, and we just simply called it the Flora Hall Amber, and people absolutely love the beer. but when it was on the menu as Flora Hall English Ordinary Bitter, they weren't selling because the servers weren't familiar with the style, they couldn't explain the style, etc. In our tap room, no problem, as I said, but slowly but surely now in Ottawa, after we've had this beer right from the get-go, and it's pretty much been on tap constantly since we opened. So people now in Ottawa understand the style a lot more, thanks to Rod's delicious version of it.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I definitely give Dave credit, because the early days in the tap room, I could hear him almost every day explaining what it was to some customer. He didn't give up on it, and I give him credit, because I wasn't sure it was going to stick. I really loved the beer too, and just a lower ABV beer that's called bitter, wasn't really sure it was going to stick, but yeah, Dave really did a good job of educating our customers and really kind of getting people to try it. And as soon as people tried it, like Dave was saying, they kind of really liked it. So yeah, it's kind of been one of the ones that have been around for us since day one, and kind of part of our identity.
I love that. I've noticed, it's interesting you mentioned that. So it sounds like you guys were ahead of the curve on the style. I've noticed, and Nate could speak to it as well, we've had multiple breweries for the pod have chosen to drink their bitter or ESB or whatever it might be. And at first I was like, this is an interesting choice. And I've seen it more and more. So it's almost like you guys were probably part of that education, not even just in Ottawa, maybe even broader, because you're so close to Quebec as well. And it just seems to have like maybe been a style that's like slowly spread, maybe with the rise of the crispies in the last few years as well, particularly the Czech stuff, and maybe more of an interest in traditional stuff that's just classic and you can't go wrong. So it's that's really fascinating to hear that you guys actually actively had to give people that education off the rip. I love it.
And
I would say that sorry, go ahead.
No, please, you go.
Oh, I was just going to say, I do think that you guys were ahead of the curve on that a little bit, because like with some of the breweries that we've talked to in the last couple of years, even just going back like 2021, 2022, something like that, like there are some who are, rolling out their first ESB, and like a couple of other breweries like doing one similarly. And I don't think there were many in 2017 that had any kind of bitter, be it an ordinary bitter or an ESB or whatnot. Like in 2017, they were pretty few and far between. So I'd say you were ahead of the curve on that.
Yeah, and I think the other thing, and I think we've all observed that there's an appetite for beers across the ABV spectrum, and I'd say more than ever, people are really loving the lower ABV beers. We have, we've always had a range, and I think it's important to the drinker in the tap room, but it's also just something, as Rod says, like when we're spending time at the brewery during the day, this is the type of beer that you want. When you're thirsty, you want a quick, you want a tasty pint, and you don't necessarily want to crush a 7% double dry hopped IPA. Right? I mean, you want that, but not perhaps during the workday. Yeah. And it's. I really appreciate how much body and flavor this beer has at that low ABV, because it's hard to do, and that's the skill of the brewer at work. Very proud of this one, and proud of the team for making it.
That was my next thing, was just to tap into the actual tasting notes of this beer. So you're exactly right there, Dave. Like, this is, I wouldn't have guessed it's 3.5 if I did this blind. Tons of biscuity malt. It's got that nice, obviously, bitterness, like grassy bitterness. It's just nice and balanced. It's crisp and light enough to make you want to crush it, but enough flavor that you don't feel like you're drinking whatever, light malt water. It's that nice little toffee sort of thing that's kind of in the back end there. Let me add that into my little notes here. A bit of toffee. I didn't think about that. Yeah, this is fantastic though. This has been a style that I always used to just think like, but I've really come around on this in the last couple of years. So when I saw this, I was like, hell yeah, this is fantastic, boys. I'm very happy to hear that it's become a flagship and it's always around, and people are digging it. Very cool.
They are.
And the other thing that I taste in this, and I don't know if this is my palate, this is something that tends to come up with me with ordinary bitters, is I get a bit of like a red tea kind of thing going on to it with with just kind of a slightly floral note combined with the biscuity malt bill, tends to come out in a bit of a red tea kind of thing for me. Is that is that a little off, or is that weird, or does that add up, do you think?
I think it adds up. Yeah, I might not have picked that out, but when you say red tea, maybe I don't know if you're picking up any kind of like astringency or anything like that. Which I find, like, when you're having a lower ABV beer, you might pick up a little bit of astringency from just like a little more extraction of polyphenols from malt husks, that kind of thing. We try not to pick up too much of that astringency there. Yeah, and the floral notes. I mean, the hops in this one is East Kent Goldings, EKG. So might be it's all EKG. So you might be picking up a little bit of that as well.
Interesting. Okay, keeping it authentic. Love it.
Interesting.
This is fire, boys. So I'd love to get the story. So from both of you, like, how did you both independently get into craft beer, and then how did that path lead you to Flora Hall? And whoever wants to start.
You go ahead, Rod, and then I'll chip in because you have a longer history in craft beer anyway. Probably not in beer, based on relative age, but in craft beer for sure.
pretty hefty in both ways. Yeah, so I mean, getting into craft beer. So yeah, like I said before, I lived in Vancouver. I was working doing environmental consulting work. So I was traveling out of town, northern Alaska, everything like that, for weeks on end. And then I'd come back for a couple of weeks. And when I would get back, I'd have a little bit of time. I went to like Dan's homebrew shop in East Hastings. Started picking up just like the most basic kits you can get. Plastic bucket, most basic homebrew kits, just for fun. And then I really just enjoyed it so much that, I was kind of like trying to like cut my field trips short so I could get a bit of a longer brew in when I got back. Really, I just kind of got, sick of the traveling with the job I had. I knew I really liked brewing. I really liked the science behind it. I'm a chemist. I did a chemistry degree. I worked in like kind of field engineering stuff. So I was used to working with pumps and working with my hands. So I really liked, the aspect of it. In craft beer in Vancouver at the time, this is 2014, I guess, was kind of just picking up. A lot of places were opening up. I thought about making the jump, but I was kind of just didn't think I could do it without just starting, sweeping the floors or anything. So what I did is I applied for a Master Brewers program down in Davis, California, UC Davis. I spent a long time just on that waiting list, and I was out east actually on a field trip, and I got an email. It said, "Oh, if you've got a spot in the program, but we got to know in like 2 weeks if you're gonna come down to California." So talked to my wife. I said, it probably doesn't make sense, does it? I'm making okay money doing the fieldwork stuff. And she said, "You're miserable. You should definitely do it." So quit my job, packed up. My wife came down with me to California. It was like 6-month course. Had an awesome time, met like such great people. Then when that was over, I moved back to Vancouver and I ended up working at Steamworks Brewing.
Nice.
Got a job working for Julia Hanlon that works there. And she had actually taken some of the same courses. She did the IBD exams, which is something that I did. So she kind of knew where I was coming from, and I knew that she, was a good brewer just from her credentials. And she was great to work for. I worked there for not even a year really, and then a job at R&B Brewing came up. At the time, R&B was just got bought by How Sound. They're putting a bit of money into it, changing out they had old dairy tanks in there, so they're getting rid of some of those, putting some new fermenters in, cleaning things up. They were starting a tap room, so it seemed like a good opportunity. So I jumped over there, worked there for about 2 years, I guess. And then, that's kind of, I was working there and having a great time, but needed to leave Vancouver. And that's when I visited Ottawa and got hooked up with Dave and came over to help start Flora Hall Brewing.
Amazing. That's great. Oh yeah, Vancouver, man. Great scene out there.
Yeah, good times, and awesome breweries out there, absolutely.
That's dope. So then, Dave, from your side then, so how did it go down for you to start the brewery and then connect with Rod?
yeah, so my story is actually somewhat similar. I mean, I have a technology background. I'm an engineer as well. I spent my life traveling the world. I had companies that were global in nature that I operated, and I spent a lot of time in establishments, in whatever country. And I would always be seeking out a place that had a certain personality, a certain character, a certain, kind of feel. And I really loved spending time there. And I worked along the way. I also spent a couple of years working in the UK. I spent my youth over there because my grandparents were, and my father is English. So I spent a lot of time in establishments, whether they're, pubs in the UK or whether they're izakayas in Japan or wherever and whatever. And loved the whole, loved everything about it and loved beer. And I almost drink beer exclusively. I drink beer and sake, and that's it. And so both are beautiful brewed products, And so when I was retired and my friends weren't, and I decided that opening a venue of some sort was what I wanted to do. I always had it in the back of my mind. And a restaurant or bar was the first thought. And then I thought, no, I love beer. I love complexity. I want to make sure that the place we open has something, I guess, has a real creative spirit. And that comes from producing something. So everything I'd done in the past had been about creating a product, designing products, getting products to market. So having beer in the mix made a lot of sense for me. And I found this beautiful but derelict industrial space in Centertown. I'm an Ottawa person. I was born here and spent a lot of my time here, but as I said, traveled a lot. And I was absolutely shocked that this building was sitting vacant and derelict. And it took a little bit of effort to get it. And it took a lot of effort rather, to turn it into what it is today. But that was the story. And I needed and wanted the best brewer I could find. And so I looked around North America because that was what I had done in the past. If I needed to find somebody for whatever company, I would recruit far and wide. And that's what we did here. And Rod and I met online a couple of times, had a great rapport online. So I was lucky that the housing prices in Vancouver were going through the roof, so he couldn't stay. He and Judith and his family couldn't stay, or could, but I shouldn't say that. They could stay, but it was going to be possible to recruit them out of a beautiful place like Vancouver because of that issue. Rod came out, and I tell people when I'm doing beer tours or when I'm ever giving a presentation to other students or whatever, like, this is the best job interview I've ever been part of, because Rod rolls up to the brewery, which was still under construction, and he's got a suitcase. I thought, okay, well, he's flying in, got a suitcase, and what's in there? And he zip, and it's all these beautiful beers that he had brewed out at R&B that he brought with him. And we sat there, as we're sitting here tonight, for the afternoon and drank those beers, and that cemented his position with me, and it's been fantastic. He's the founder of co-founder with me of Flora Hall, without question, and I'm happy to have him.
That's awesome.
And,
Damn, that's a good way to show up to a brewing interview.
I mean, it's better than a piece of paper, isn't it?
Yeah.
Significantly.
Here's my CV. It's like, it's in bottles and it's in my suitcase right here.
I love that. I feel like that's a lesson. If for any brewers who are listening or watching, and you're going for a job interview, be like Rod.
Bring your beer.
Bring your beer.
Absolutely.
Be a suitcase. That's awesome, boys. I remember hearing, if I'm not mistaken, the actual venue, it used to be a fire station. Is that correct?
It's actually an urban legend.
Okay, they lied to me.
The profile of the brewery actually looks a lot like a fire station that's not too far from where both Rod and I live in Ottawa. There's a fire station that has a very similar front facade, and it's now a community center. So countless people believe it to be a fire station, and it looks like it could have been.
Right.
But no, it was built in the 20s as a kind of a combo office warehouse setup. It's a rare industrial building. I mean, Ottawa does not have a lot of these types of spaces, so very fortunate in it. But it was, it was an industrial building for probably, I guess, well, all of its life. But it was originally this engineering outfit, and then it was cycle salvage, which is, as I say in our brewery tours, is not full Sons of Anarchy, but it was like along the way towards that. And now and then it sat empty for 10 years, and it really was a shame. Like it was rotting. The building was rotting, and now it's back into the community, and it's built to last. It should be there for decades to come.
That's awesome, Nate.
And so with it in the state that it was, I'm thinking back to before you guys opened, and and you had social media up and running under the name Flora Hall Brewing, and and I remember there were periodic updates every now and then. How long were you working on it before before opening day? It must have been at least at least a year or two that you were kind of working on it before it opened, right?
It was it was a very complex but compact project. Actually, got the building in probably in the middle of 2016, and then set about with the planning and design and such. We didn't really start. As long as the City of Ottawa officials are not listening at this time, I can admit the fact that we started construction. We started demolition in December of 2016, and then full-on construction after our building permit, of course, came in January or February of 2017, and then we opened in October 2017. So it was an intense year of activity, but only really 8 months of construction, and it was a very enjoyable and a challenging project, but it was a lot of fun. It was just so much fun. We had every trade you can imagine was working on that project, and Rod and I had a meeting recently with one of those tradespeople that was on that thing, and we were reflecting on the party that we had for the trades before we opened to the public. And a lot of these guys, or people in general, I guess they'd had their light beers, they'd had their this, they'd had that, and they were tasting. Rod also has an amazing Northeast IPA that's a flagship and core beer. Well, maybe we'll be trying it soon. We'll find out what the next one Rod wants us to drink. And these people were accustomed to 3-4% lagers, and all of a sudden they encountered this big, juicy, delicious 6.5% beer, and all hell broke loose. It was a great party.
That's awesome. I've never heard that. People throwing a party for the folks who made the space happen. I love that. That is so dope.
It was outstanding. We had probably 150 people, I'd say.
Jeez.
And the various they brought their partners, and it was outstanding. It really was.
That's so cool, man. Good for you.
Before anybody else had a drink in there, to be honest.
I love that.
Really good.
That's super respectful. Very, very cool. I was also going to say the actual location, aside from, it seemed like you're saying it was a rare space. It's for people who know, Bank Street in Ottawa is one of the main sort of streets in the downtown area. I guess you'd still consider it. I feel like every single time if I go into Ottawa to go do stuff, get coffee, go out, eat, whatever, it's basically around that general area, and it's the perfect location. It's Flora Street, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, it's Flora Street, and it's center town. So for people who are not familiar with Ottawa, and it truly is, if you look back at old maps of Ottawa, that's where the cable cars emanated from. That's where it all started, up and down Bank Street, as you say, Cee, and north south, and that was familiar territory for me. Anybody again who's been to Ottawa or is from Ottawa, they know the Barrymore's Music Hall was just north of us. Somebody needs to take that over and do a nice restoration of that. But that's how I knew about the Flora building, because I used to go to shows down there in the 70s and 80s, and just this thing was in the corner of my eye.
Very. So then, sorry.
No, you guys go on. I'm just converting my headphones to physical because I think my battery
Might start to die.
out.
Okay, no worries, no problem. So then, at the time, so opening October 2017, to paint the picture of the landscape of craft beer in Ottawa from the outside in, I'd been there a few times at that point. I know Dominion was around, maybe Tooth and Nail was around. Yeah, no, they definitely were.
Yeah,
who else was around?
Beyond the Pale and Bicycle would have been around as well.
But that's kind of it in the general vicinity. I guess trying to say that it's a pretty young scene at the time.
Yes. Yeah, Beyond the Pale was definitely, I mean, if we look beyond BAOS, which BAOS was the first mover in the whole area and deserve a lot of credit for that in general in Ontario and beyond. But in Ottawa, certainly Beyond the Pale, I think Beyond the Pale, Rod, you just went to their 10th anniversary. Yeah. So they were
there. Yeah. That was one of the breweries that I visited actually when I was here for that wedding. That kind of, convinced me that the scene was pretty good. Like, when I had visited, Beyond the Pale had I think just recently opened their current location. And yeah, Shane came out from the back and I introduced myself and he showed me around the whole place. So yeah, went there and went to Tooth and Nail, and I was that's where I kind of got the vibe that there's a good kind of young scene in Ottawa that would be great to tap into and be a part of.
So it was really good timing for you guys then, as far as like you're stepping into a scene that had started to I mean, previously I remember I lived in Montreal for a decade. Now I'm out here, but from Montreal, whenever I went up to Ottawa, I remember, like, I'm talking like in 2013, 14, I think maybe I went to Clock Tower or something, and that was is that what it's called?
Yeah.
Like the original one? Yeah. But that was kind of it. There wasn't even, from memory, maybe Beyond the Pale was there, but it was the original tiny one that I didn't know. I never actually got to go there. So.
And probable that Kitchissippi would have been around at that time.
Yes.
Gotcha.
Yes.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay. Maybe even Broadhead. Maybe.
Yep, Broadhead
Maybe?
as well.
Okay.
Yep, Broadhead. And Broadhead, they've all come along. Like Broadhead was parked in a very small industrial park setting in the South End, and Kitchissippi was in, so everybody has moved along. But Broadhead was definitely there as well. Yeah.
Okay. Now I'm thinking of it. When you mentioned the year, I went to the CBAs in May 2017. And I remember going to Dominion and Tooth and Nail. We did podcasts back then with them, and I was super impressed with what's happening. And I remember that being oh shit, like Ottawa is killer. Like, this is great. And I feel like that was my first realization that the city was coming in. So it's like you guys came in at the perfect time when things were starting to pick up from maybe being a little... just kind of standard stuff, nothing like world changing, just, making solid beer, to now here's some real standout products. So you guys came in at the perfect time. What was it like for you guys entering the market as it is, and what did that look like?
So I'll chip in, and then Rod can chip in on the beer side. I mean, from a pure sort of front of house hospitality side, I've got a funny story that I tell quite often about just glassware. Like right now we're drinking our bitter out of pint glasses, which is what it belongs in. Mm-hmm. And other beers that we'll have are in other glasses. And I remember sitting at the bar. We have two bars at Flora, one down on the main level. It's a horseshoe shaped bar, which I love. And then upstairs on the mezzanine, there's another bar, different vibe, different feel. It's great. So I was sitting at the horseshoe bar and I was observing just customers coming and going and talking to people and such. And there were a couple came in and sat down. It was probably in our first month of operation. And the woman in the pair ordered a stout and got her stout in the same pint glass that we're enjoying right now. And the fella ordered a Northeast IPA and got it in a stemmed 14 ouncer. And I could just see him. He's like, arms, like the body language. It was not. He was not loving the whole situation. Okay, so I walked over to the table. I said, "You don't really like that glass, do you?" He's like, "No, I don't," because I mean, he was a big, and it's not. I guess the size of him doesn't matter. But he's a big, muscular guy, and his girlfriend was quite small, and she's enjoying her pint, and he's got his glass. So I grabbed his glass. I said, "Look, I'll sort this out." So I put it in a pint, and I topped it up, and I brought it over. I said, "Look," and then it gave me a chance to talk to him about why it's in the small glass in the first place. But I said, so the next time you come in, I can't guarantee you're going to get that beer in this glass, but enjoy, happy to see you, and so forth. And at the end of a couple of those, he came over and said, "You know what? I started to appreciate it because it's a big beer, 6.5, tons of hop, beautiful aroma. By the time you get down to the bottom, it's not what it's supposed to be." And I think he kind of appreciated it, and probably just talking about it and just having that. So that's what our first exposure to the beer scene in Ottawa was. But I can tell you, we've come a million miles. Like that issue, that question, that doubt, or sorry, that concern has never been raised again. It was almost like just the catharsis. Like it was like, okay, it doesn't always have to be in a pint glass.
Yeah, that's again just such a great example of like good things that can come out of like consumer education.
And having a tap room, I think, like we in Canada, I think we largely have always, emphasized tap room, but the tap room provides us with so much information and so much knowledge, or so much information for what the customers are looking for, what the customers are thinking about, what they're talking about, and it's a pleasure to just be there and see people enjoying Rod's beers and Miles's beers and Tim's food, and it's just really it brings it all to life, I guess.
That's awesome. And from then, that's a fantastic anecdote, Dave. And Rod, from your side, from the beer perspective, at the time, that's when the New England IPA was taking off in everywhere. But Canada was a little late to the game at that stage. Probably only been, when you guys opened, maybe a year to 18 months tops of that style kind of being around in Ontario, at least. So what was that looking like? What were people wanting? Were they kind of, like Dave was saying, were they weirded out by the styles and stuff? Like, what did you open with?
Yeah, I mean, we opened with the Northeast IPA along with the bitter and a few others. Like we had a Saison, West Coast, the American Oat Pale Ale, which we still have as well. I don't think we had the stout quite yet. But
should we try the American Oat Pale Ale, Rod, while you're talking about this?
Sure, yeah. You guys are
great thinking, Dave.
Ready for the next one? Yeah.
I got it right here. Anyway, carry on. I'm just kidding.
I love it. Dave,
I need a refill. I need a refill.
Oh yeah. Bitter was fantastic, so I'm excited for this.
Right on. So yeah, just honestly, like when we opened, I remember it like we had a really good response from the brewing community. I met a lot of other brewers, a lot of other people that worked at other breweries, people that worked at beer bars. So it was really welcoming, and the beers were generally like quite well received.
Good.
I think we did, fairly well on our opening beers, and we've since then kind of just really kind of nailed them down even more. But I think out of what do we open with, Dave? 5-6 beers. I think at least 4 of them are still around. So
that's good.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
So were people asking for anything, or was there any sort of education on that part, particularly say with the New England, because the beer nerds would know what that is, but my guess would be the average person wouldn't really.
I mean, honestly, like, coming from Vancouver over here, like the haze craze out there, like I was just getting into it. I remember I was working at Steamworks, and the guy I was working with, John Follensby, he was kind of telling me he was out in Vermont, and he's like, man, I had these beers. Almost felt like there was like hops floating in it. They're super hazy. And I was like, what? That's crazy. So, like fast forward a year or so, I was working at R&B and we're like, we're going to try these haze beers. And like, I remember we were using all kinds of yeast. We were using Vermont for a while, and we couldn't really get the haze to be stable. Sometimes it was hazy, sometimes it wasn't. Sometimes it would drop out after a week or two in package. I remember adding like flour to the beer. We added apple puree to get some pectin in there, and I had a couple decent versions out there. And then when I got to Ottawa, I remember being like, I really want to nail this for opening. I was lucky to start using escarpment labs for yeast, and use their Foggy London, just like a variation of London Ale 3.
It's a pretty common one in Ontario.
Yeah, and just using that yeast with a little bit of oats, a little bit of wheat, it all kind of came together. Like I didn't necessarily have that recipe nailed down until kind of the first brew in Ottawa here at Flora Hall. I was like, okay, this is how we do it.
That was a beauty when it rolled out. I mean, that was so fresh, so juicy, cheers, so amazing. Yeah, cheers.
And it hasn't really changed much since.
Oh, this is delicious.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
very
this
drinkable.
one.
Oh yes, that buddy. So this was one of the ones, like you were saying, was around at the. This is one of the originals.
Yeah.
And was it like this in 2017?
Similar. It's a little different now. We've kind of so we changed the hops a little bit.
Okay. What other hops in this one, by the way?
Yeah, so we got Citra Mosaic, Cashmere, and Galaxy. So it used to be Citra, Mosaic, Cashmere, and Cascade.
Okay.
We kind of just switched the Cascade out for Galaxy to give it a little more punch. Yeah.
Okay.
I love this beer too.
Oh,
This is like a very crushable 5%. It's got that beautiful, citrus grapefruit aroma. Again, it's balanced. It's amazing. And Rod's describing the Northeast that he brewed, which we'll try, I guess, in a bit. People would come in the early days of Flora and breweries in general in Ottawa and say, I don't like hoppy beers. I don't like hoppy beers. And we would say, well, okay, well, fine. We'll start you with this. We'll start you with that. But eventually, they would leave having had the Northeast, and they were blown away. I'd say, well, this beer is packed with hops. I can assure you. I said, so you now know that you do like hoppy beers. You just like hoppy beers that are balanced, that are, are flavorful.
Yeah, when they're coming in saying they don't like hoppy beers, they're thinking they don't like the like the 2015 tongue scraper West Coast style.
Right. Yeah, they don't want to burn the back of their throat. They don't, and so forth. But these beers, and this one, I consider this to be a hoppy beer. Rod can correct me if I'm wrong, but I mean, this is like packed with hops, very hop forward, but it's so balanced and so drinkable. I drink this one almost as much as the bitter. It's just so good, especially in the
One thing that I've always loved about this one as a pale ale is that the body is really soft and and just kind of very it's got a nice medium body, a little bit more heft to it than a typical APA, which I really appreciate about it.
Is that the oats, Rod, in there? Is that what's causing that body? Yeah.
Yeah, it's got a decent amount of oats, a little bit of wheat in there as well. And yeah, again, we're like really kind of pushing our mash temps on some of our beers now, the ones that we want to kind of keep our body on and maybe bringing down our kettle hops a little bit. So trying to balance it out without being like cloying or sweet. We still want it to be like really drinkable. I think that's kind of like one of the keys for us being in a kind of almost a brew pub setting is, you know, like it's not just about the first couple sips. It's like, how does it finish? And like when you're done taking a sip, like, are you going to want another one? And when you're done your beer, are you going to want another one? You know? So just finding that balance of like, yes, having a lot of body, but not like being overly sweet and like, you know, almost, you don't want to have, you finish your beer and be like, you know, I'm tired from drinking that beer because it's like, it was like work to get through, you know, it had great flavors. Like I really loved it, but like, it's got the balance where it's got, you know, that body, like you're saying, but it's not overly sweet or anything like that. So it's kind
Definitely
of
not.
for this guy. Yeah.
I feel like this is so I love this so much. I feel like everything you've all said is exactly right. I feel like this is like, particularly after the last 3 years of maybe particularly in 2020, people went a little hard with the regularity of drinking and the you know, crushing double IPAs on a Tuesday like it's nothing. And I feel like this is much more, which it can be nothing, I guess, but you know.
Yeah.
I personally find myself reaching for like the 6.5% IPA or like a nice 5% pale ale, and this to me is exactly what like the benchmark of what it should be. Like everything you both described it at, it's like I just did a nice little hop burp and I'm got the coming through my nose, like super aromatic, it's juicy, it's citrusy. I'm even getting mango and pineapple. The body is insane. This is fantastic. And the other thing, I think this is very commendable. This was canned a month to the day today. And sometimes these beers, you know, don't hold up so well. I would never have got this to me. I thought it would have been canned in the last week. This is super fresh. This is fantastic, guys. I'm extremely impressed with this. No wonder it stuck around.
Yeah.
Thanks so much.
Yeah. It's a beaut.
Definitely.
Glorious.
I want to come back to the Ottawa scene and just kind of where you guys fit into that in like just in terms of who's coming through your door, because as I consider myself a fairly regular there, and like with the people that I've come there with, and and just kind of observing the crowd in there, it's a pretty eclectic crowd that ends up filling the hall at any given time. I have some thoughts on the consumer side as to what might attribute to that, but I'm curious to hear what you guys make of that, and kind of what brings that crowd through your doors.
Well, certainly the vision when we opened the place, when we opened that spot in Centertown, it was my absolute dream that we would be full of the demographic of Centertown, the demographic of the city of Ottawa, you know, the cross section of Ottawa, not one particular demographic over another. And I've said this, and I don't want to disrespect any hipsters, but I just said, if we're full, if I open the doors and all I see is one type of person, then I'm going to close the doors the next day and restart because I failed. And we didn't. Right from the get-go, we had, you know, people from all different walks of life, all different colors, all different genders, all different, you know, everything, and anybody who lives in the vicinity and who lives in the broader neighborhood. And that's what we're trying to provide. We're trying to provide a community hub, a gathering place, something that is welcoming to locals, but equally welcoming to people who are wandering through Ottawa for whatever reason. And you know, we want to make sure that when anybody walks through those doors, they feel like, you know, this is a place I can come back to. This is a place I want to come back to, whether I live here or not. And I think we've achieved that. And I think it's about the beer. The beer is absolutely fundamental. If the beer was no good, they're coming in once or twice and they're not coming back. Let's agree. The service has to be there. The food is an important ingredient for us at Flora Hall. It always has been. We again try and provide food that changes with Rod's beers. Now it's Rod and Miles. Originally it was Rod and Carly. It's Rod and Co. You know, they change their beers all the time, and I love that. And similarly, the kitchen changes their menu all the time, and I love that. And they're in lockstep. In fact, I came from Flora to the podcast here tonight, and Rod and Miles are about to release this strawberry rhubarb goza, which we often do in the spring. Not every spring, but this spring we're having it. It's coming out tomorrow, I think. Rod, is it on tap?
That's right.
And,
tapping.
And our, already the kitchen is, oh, Dave, try this dish. I want to introduce this dish tomorrow night that pairs with this new beer. And I love that.
Oh, I love that.
The front of house doesn't always love the fact that these dishes appear out of nowhere, but I love it. And, it just works, and it dovetails with the creativity that's coming out of the brewery. And so anyway, I guess I rambled over there from the original question, which is about demographic, but the whole idea here is to provide something which is ever changing, that satisfies people, whether they're coming every day or whether they're coming once a year. And that's where we're trying to play it. So
that's dope.
Oh, that's great. That's great. Yeah. You definitely touched on something that's been my feeling there with it being a community hub. When you guys opened, I lived in Centertown. I'm now just a little bit south. I'm even closer to you now than I was when I lived in Centertown. But
okay.
One of the things that I thought was interesting when you guys opened was you filled a bit of a hole in Centertown. There were there was a handful of restaurants on either on Elgin or Bank or whatnot that had great craft beer selections, but Centertown was certainly missing its own brew house.
Yeah.
And and for a pretty wide range, in fact, I think the closest one to it might have been Waller Street at the time, and that's a pretty small joint in the in the market now, now gone. But anyways, that brought that to Centertown, which it didn't have anything like it before, and it definitely felt. And still continues to feel like a community hub because, like you're saying, it feels like everybody goes there. And I've got friends of mine who aren't beer drinkers who like to meet up there.
Right.
And you also. It may have touched on a couple of other points, but something else that I meant to bring up as well is the culinary program is quite something there as well. I love that the kitchen is making dishes that are pairing with new releases that are coming up, and we've been hearing more and more of this with breweries that are kind of putting more thought into their culinary programs. Recently, a couple of months ago, we were talking to Counterpart out in Niagara Falls, and they've got a very similar focus with their restaurant and kind of how the kitchen side of the house and the brewery side of the house work in tandem. So.
Right.
That's really cool, and from my perspective as a consumer, I think that definitely contributes to to the crowd that comes through the doors.
Yeah.
So so basically, Nate, you think that people are rocking up for the food, even if they're not like the four of us, maybe beer focused people. They're going because they know the food's good. And the vibe
definitely, and there's also something there for everyone beverage wise, even if they're not beer drinkers. Because am I correct that you guys always have at least one cider on tap? In addition to the wine and cocktail options as well.
100%. In fact, we. Right from the beginning, we agreed as a group, we're like, okay, obviously beer is what we love and beer is what we do. But the food was fundamental. That was part of my vision. And also welcoming other drinkers. So if you have a group of 6 and 2 of them are not beer drinkers, then they ain't staying very long. And I was on a few tours down in Toronto, and I'm not going to name the breweries. They're wonderful breweries, but I remember being in these breweries with people who were not beer drinkers, and I was dying to stay. I'm like, I want to stay. This is amazing. But we moved along. We moved along, right? And so this was before we opened Flora, and so that stuck with me. And absolutely, we've had, I think from the beginning, no, not quite from the beginning, but very soon after we opened, I discovered Farmgate over at the Lansdowne Farmers Market. And they're a wonderful cider maker from up in the Ottawa Valley. We were, for the longest time, their biggest customer. We still may be. I don't know. We move a lot of their cider. It's a beautiful product. It totally fits our brand. It's, they're craft cider makers. They're talented. We actually did a staff event up there years ago to just to go spend time with them and see how they make their cider. And our customers love that stuff. If they're not in the mood for beer, or if they're not beer drinkers, or they're gluten-free or whatever it is, then they have something there. And we've got a great wine list. We've got a full cocktail bar. I shouldn't say full cocktail bar. We got a full bar, nice whiskey, and so forth. And it's again meant to just give people choices when they're at the hall, because we want them to spend time at the hall. And eventually they'll all. Hey, let's face it. Eventually, they'll all turn into beer drinkers and drink Rod's beer. But we got to get them in before we can get them over to drink.
Get them converted.
We converted it.
We often have that laugh with people. Yeah.
Well, I remember one of your friends, Dave, who would only drink Bud Light for the first 6 months that he came.
Yeah. Yep.
You'd hide a few cans in the cooler there.
Yeah.
And then after a while, just try this. Let's try this.
Is
he converted?
Yeah. I remember. Yeah, he's converted now. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. He lives. He's got bitter in his veins now.
That's beautiful.
The story.
I love that, though. I think that's the coolest shit ever. I just got back from 5 weeks in the States. We were in Miami for a month and then traveling each way. And the one takeaway I got was that almost every brewery had insane amounts of options for other that weren't beer. And it seemed extremely deliberate. And I found that it wasn't super common here. Like a lot of them had like draft cocktails and draft wine and all sorts of stuff that made the non-beer drinkers not feel like they're annoying the bartender. I gotta go and find that bottle of whiskey we keep around or whatever. Like it's really cool that you guys are making it abundantly clear. Like, hey, everyone's welcome. We make beer. You probably should try it, but if it's not your vibe, we've got all of this for you. And it's I think that's important. Exactly what you're saying. You guys are saying that you bring them in, even if it's just for feeling welcome, whether it's for the food or from these other options, and then hopefully they enjoy the vibe so much that they keep coming back and like, I should try their damn beer. I've been here 7 times. I should, type of thing. And eventually you move from, you get them right into it. I think that's really important, though. I think the gateway type of situations in craft beer, we say this on here a lot. Like, I just think they're extraordinarily underrated as to how important they are to the future of the growth of the industry, really. If we're not converting people, what's the point?
Yeah. And, we've also, seen people who, come in and drink wine. They don't say, I don't like beer. I've tried it a bunch of times. Don't like it. And then they'll try like a Goza or something like that. And they'll just be like, oh, well, this doesn't taste like.
I didn't know beer could taste like this.
Oh, I didn't know. Yeah, exactly. And now, they still drink wine, but they'll drink a few beers every once in a while. So, I think it's important having beers that are, I guess, approachable, but I don't really like that word. I just like, balance, because like I love those beers too. I drink beer a lot. I love beers that are just good balance. I like drinking a lot of beer, so I don't want to drink a beer that's hard to drink.
Well,
I want to drink a beer that I want another one of.
Totally. And that's a hallmark of. And I think it's just, I would actually recast it. Rod can't say it this way, but I would recast it as talent. The balance is the talent. It's the art. It's the skill. That's true. It's the craft, because when people come in again on these tours, and and that's when you really get a window, because then you're getting people who are like, oh, I'm not sure about any of this. They got dragged onto these tours, and you start dishing out these beers, and they're just like, what the hell? Like they're amazing, delicious, da 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 da. And I often use the analogy with, because most of the people who come in have cooked something. They've created a dish in their kitchen, and that's the analogy I use. I said, spices in the wrong hands ruin a dish, and hops in the wrong hands ruin a beer. I mean, you have to be just, it's put in the right proportion, put it in the right time, balanced against other ingredients in that beer in order to produce this delicious thing that you're putting in your mouth. And they can relate to that, even if they've only cooked a couple of things. Like, you make a chili and you throw too much cumin in there, it's not going to be very good. Too much chili, it's not going to be very good. Too much of this, it's not going to be very good. But when you get it all right, it's like, wow, that's amazing. And,
that's a great relatable anecdote for people, though, I guess, because I imagine a lot of people coming through in that sense maybe wouldn't be super familiar with beer, or how complex it can be, or the depth of it, actually, of how, like, oh, I didn't realize, mention the goza, like, people probably didn't realize that that's what it is, or they see this little murky glorious thing here and they go, what the hell is that? Like, that's beer, mate. Like, people didn't even know. I was gonna ask them, do you guys have any, since you are so focused on this conversion, I guess might be a good way to say it, but was there any specific beers that you guys have noticed that continually convert people? So the ghost is obviously for like the white wine drinkers and stuff, and any type of sours. That's something I've noticed in the past.
I just think in general the wine drinkers are coming, and they're still coming. They're still rolling in as new beer drinkers, because they're just, because of the complexity of the flavor profiles that are available, and just all this information, because wine drinkers often like to have more information. Traditional old school beer drinkers are like, I just want a beer. Now, that's changing. But certainly wine drinkers continue to roll in and convert. But Rod, maybe you have something more to say, but I just find that we are bringing people in to beer by just allowing them to try different beers in small quantities, and all of a sudden they're like, yeah, I didn't know how much I would enjoy this. Rod's been brewing a lot of Pilsners lately, so Pilsners are useful, I think, to bring people into craft, because they are at least familiar with the term, and they're, okay, I drink a lager, and then they'll try a Pilsner that's, again, properly crafted. Like, we have a German Pilsner right now, which is beautiful and drinkable, 4.8. Unfortunately, I don't think we have it in our box here, because we sold out of it. We got a Bohemian Pilsner. Those are also beers that bring people into craft, and then they're like, wow, this is way better than any Pilsner I've ever had. So let me try this now. And then they'll try the American Oat Pale Ale that we're drinking right now. And I'm like, okay, wow, I never thought I would want something that looked like that, because they like a crispy, clear Pilsner. But then they try that and they're like, wow, okay, and then off they go. So, Rod, I'll let you pitch in as well there.
Yeah, I mean, I guess one beer that it's been, keep going back to the Northeast, I guess. A lot of people say, like, I don't really like IPAs, like I don't like hoppy beers or something, like Dave was saying before. But you definitely, any given night you look around and a lot of people are drinking the Northeast IPA. And a lot of people are just kind of probably less surprised by it now, but like, straight off the bat, people are like, I don't like those hoppy beers, I don't like those bitter beers, we'll try this. It's like, oh, it's like a tropical beer. It doesn't taste bitter, it's got a lot of flavor. So I think like that has kind of really been like an eye-opener for a lot of people over the years at Flora Hall, to what craft beer kind of can be. It doesn't necessarily have to be like this IPA isn't necessarily just the super bitter kind of IPA that you would necessarily think of. So that's one that comes to mind. Anytime we do kind of like a fruited sour or something like that, like I think just seeing that nice bright color come to the table, like it's, something that someone will be like, oh, well, what's that? I want to try that one. Just like the appearance of that. It looks
intriguing.
refreshing, and then you get exactly. So that's another one for sure. Like those those fruited sours or anything that has just like a really nice bright color, just catches people's eye and people's curiosity.
A couple of the sorbet sours that you guys do must do that, because like some of those are like really, really vibrant, eye-catching colors.
Yeah, exactly. So
that's dope.
Yeah, those are nice to just like you said, catches people's eye, and then like it's just infectious, right? It's like it's kind of like a Caesar, like you're at brunch and you see someone else get a Caesar.
You see one, you're having one. Yeah,
I'm getting one of those. Yeah,
it's very true. Very true. But I also want to call out, and as we're talking about all these hazies and fruit sours and such, we have, I think, the best West Coast IPA in the city and probably in the province, and maybe even further beyond, because, and maybe Rod, you can speak to it. I don't know if you were brewing it out there, but that's the story I tell. I said, well, I brought the brewer from the West Coast, and that's why this thing is killer, right? And it is killer. It's a beautiful beer, and it's as a contrast to the sort of citrusy, hazy stuff. You get this clear, beautiful, amber colored, or not even, light amber colored beer with a piney, resiny kind of nose, and a wonderful thing. And I think that beer style is less trendy, but it's been around forever. I mean, it's like those are the beers that if we, beautiful beer. And so we get people who are moving along, and then they'll try the West Coast, and then they're hooked. They are absolutely like, that's all I'm drinking. I don't want anything else. I want the West Coast. Definitely. That's it. That's all. And when it goes off, they're upset. And, and I hear about it, but it doesn't go off top very often. But it's so interesting the way that the palates have evolved. You never would have expected it. If you were a Canadian sitting here in 1970, I don't think you could not have predicted how fast the palate would change. Like, I grew up on Labatt's 50. I drank 50. I probably made up of more 50 than the bitter. I'm trying to catch the bitter up to make sure that my life will
balance out a bit
there. Longer and balance out. But who would have thought, when I was drinking those beers, that we'd have this sort of rich assortment of beers available to us now, and it's amazing. It's so good, so good. Yeah. What should we try next, Rod? Because I think we're talking, but we're talking, but we're not drinking.
We're talking a lot. I mean, I was gonna say Northeast, but maybe the West Coast.
No.
I don't know, what do you guys?
Yeah, probably. Well, even after, because after the American Oat, I think we should just
bring it up
now. Yeah, change it up, or do a Pilsner or West Coast. Yeah.
Let's go West Coast.
Okay, let's go West Coast.
You're speaking to Nate and I. We're huge on West Coast. We did a whole episode just drinking West Coast.
I gotta empty my glass. I'll be right back.
Of course. It's I was really happy to hear you guys just mentioned this right now. I did see that in there, and I was hoping that we would get to this one tonight. It's just something that exactly, it's like, it's so interesting that the way the palates have changed, and like even Nate and I, we did the episode on it earlier this year, I think it was, or late last year, just because we were finding that we were reaching for West Coast more than even New England's, which is obviously, all of our, it's our shit, it's what we get down with. But West Coast were just like, obviously what we all started with. And to come back to it right now, that makes me very happy that you guys are converting people with the West Coast and making sure that people are wanting, are getting mad if it's not on. That's sick. It makes me very happy.
Ooh.
Yeah, no, it's
give that can a sniff.
Yeah. Okay. I want it.
Sorry, Rod. Go ahead.
No worries. Yeah, I think definitely see like just a resurgence in West Coast, or just, I don't know, it's not like it went anywhere, but
I agree with that word.
It's kind of like people are kind of remembering it, bringing it back, right?
Yeah. So here for it.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. And like the hazers are great. They're, they can be, just the flavor profiles can be great, but something about a West Coast IPA is just like, it's
Nostalgic.
clean, it's crisp. I don't know, like it's I don't know, it's that bitterness is.
It's almost like I always say to people that, like, I got into craft. I moved to Canada. I'm from Australia. I moved to Canada in 2010. I got into craft beer in a deeper way in January 2011. The selfie thing started then. And that was back when West Coast, that was everything, like Nate mentioned before, the tongue stripping, palate wrecker, all that type of stuff. And back then, when you got into beer, you went through the rainbow wheel of, a blonde, an amber, a nut brown, a porter, a stout, an IPA, Belgian stuff, sours, and blah, blah, blah. You did all of that. And then all of a sudden, around 2016-ish, the hype stuff comes in. So there's a lot of new drinkers who don't even know what the fuck this is. Like, they've been drinking haze and smoothies and pastry stouts, and that's kind of it. And they don't even know. And it's fascinating to me that West Coast have come back in this way, and I kind of love it. It's almost like West Coast is the cool underground beer when it was it was what haze is right now. Like, people some people don't know or kind of forgotten. And, we drown in a sea of haze, which I'm cool with, but I don't know, it makes you appreciate it when there's so much of the haze around, which is glorious. But then when you do have it now, I feel like having a great West Coast means even more than perhaps it used to, because of the lack of, bombardment with these things. It's amazing.
Yeah, that's very true. There are,
Oh, sorry, Dave. No, please go ahead.
Go ahead. No, you.
All I was going to say is that because there's not the same bombardment of them as there is with hazies, where Cee was saying that we both found that like West Coast are the thing that we tend to be reaching for more, because there's not the same bombardment when we have like West Coast. They're almost on average more reliable than a lot of hazies can be.
I like that.
Like, it's I really think they are.
Why do you think that?
Well, I mean, to a certain degree, it's because no one's brewing a West Coast because they feel like they have to. Whereas that certainly is the case with with a lot of hazies, and there's also no breweries that are brewing 95% West Coast IPAs, whereas there are some breweries that brew 95%, 95% New Englands.
Great
so
point.
I think just when you choose to brew a West Coast, it's because you're on average, I would say, there are bad West Coasts out there, but on average, if you're choosing to brew a West Coast, there's something deliberate about it there. So I think that has to contribute to them being, on average, more reliable.
I love that.
Yeah, we've had this beer again. This is a flagship beer. We've had this since the get-go, and it's a beer that I totally attach myself to, probably before even the Northeast, because I like the bitter, I like the malt forward beers. This beer just appealed to me, and I love it, and I've always loved it. We have another one in the cooler here, which is a collaboration beer that we did with a brewery up in the valley that we can talk about later. But this West Coast, Rod, you can tell me the history of it, or did you have a West Coast in R&B? I can't remember. I can't remember if I tried this out of your suitcase. That day is still
yeah, probably. I mean, honestly, this is kind of like a. It was this is one of my homebrew recipes from back in the day before I even got into it. I mean, just because I mean, we were talking to my brewer friend before I was in the industry. It's like, what kind of hops should I use? He's just, just use a Scam, mate. It's like, what's Scam? He's like, Simcoe, Citra, Amarillo, Mosaic. Scam. Can't go wrong. So that's what's in it.
Scam.
Just like, yeah, right. Gonna make a West Coast. Gonna make like, it's just Pilsner malt with like a tiny bit of caramel malt just to get a little color, and those 4 hops, and it's like heavy on Mosaic, layering the Mosaic in there at like different times. So I think we've got a 20-minute edition, 15-minute edition, 10-minute edition, 5-minute edition, and then Whirlpool is all 4 of those hops, and then dry hop with all 4 of those hops.
Amazing.
So yeah, just it's like a recipe that hasn't. I mean, it's changed a little bit here and there, but it's old, just tried and true. Like when I was getting into IPAs, this is kind of what I was into at first, I guess. Yeah.
No, this is phenomenal. I love that it's like, it's not too intense. It's like, and I feel like, I don't know if you guys would agree with this. I feel like this is the modern West Coast IPA. There was the 2014, 13 palette wrecker. Like ramp up the IBUs, literally borderline undrinkable, but you're doing it because it's all about the extremes. But now it's like this. The Simcoe probably is giving most of the sort of dankness in this, but it's so juicy and tropical whilst being malty and biscuity, piney and resinous, but balanced. Like you came back to what you were saying before, Rod, with balance in this beer. It's extraordinarily drinkable, and I was a little surprised to hear that you were saying that people, like Dave, you were saying you were converting people with a West Coast IPA, which is damn near unheard of. But now I get it. I can see why. It's definitely one of the most approachable West Coast I've had in some time.
Yeah, it's delicious, and I think people who are not into the into the haze stuff, they're not into the citrus stuff. There is citrus in there for sure on the nose. You get something in there, but they're more attracted to that sort of other side of the flavor spectrum, the maltiness and the resin and the pine, and they just, that's it. That's what they want. And there's a bit of religion almost, and I don't think it's appearance. Like I think my old dad, who's now, like I say, 91, he holds the beer up before he drinks it. So the haze will never appeal. He can't do it. It has to be clear. It has to be clear. I don't think that's affecting the West Coast drinker as much, but it's just there's something about it, and they latch onto it, and that's what they want. And I have friends who will email me like, "I'm coming in Friday night. Do you have any West Coasting cans right now?" We almost always have it on tap. Again, it's been a reliable flagship beer for us, but we don't always have it in cans because we don't can that much beer at Flora. We can, as we go, we can a certain amount, but they're addicted to this stuff. It's an amazing. It's another hit from this guy, right?
It's Rod just smacking it out the park.
Love to hear that.
So the trajectory on this, which I'd be curious. So when you opened this, excuse my forgetfulness, did you say that you opened with this one?
Yep.
Yeah, we did.
Okay. Yep. So from open to now, what's this beer kind of look like as far as, I guess, just more like popularity is probably my question. Like, did it, like, you opened in 2017, arguably at the peak of the haze craze or close to, and then going through these like times, like what's it look like? Did West Coast, was it killing it for a bit? Then it kind of went flat, but it had its fans, and then now it's coming back. Like, what's the general vibe here? I'm curious.
I mean, I'd say it's like been pretty solid for us off the bat. I think when I was first brewing this beer at Flora, it was probably like more dry, more bitter. But we also had a lot of drinkers that were like, I like IPAs, and like to them it's like, like
this
Bone
is an
Shaker
IPA
stuff,
like
I want that bitterness. And then, over the years I've kind of I wouldn't say we haven't backed off the hops, so we've kind of just, made it a little more balanced, try to get a little more body in there, a little bit of malt flavor to like play with the bitterness. So it's always kind of been, like a 3rd or 4th kind of bestseller. It's always kind of been in there.
Like sitting nice. Okay.
Yeah. So
that's good.
It's been good. Yeah, good for us over the years.
And it's so hard. Like when those questions come in, it's so hard for anybody to answer because we went through those. We had 2 years of nonsense data, which nobody will ever want to analyze. I don't even want to look at it. I don't even care about it. It just happened and it's gone. But now we're back into it. But I think, if we were a traditional old school brewery and we had like, these are our 5 beers and this is what we have, I'm sure this one would be surging. You know what I mean? Like it's a beer that people would always be going to, or would be increasingly going to. But Rod, we've been open for coming up on 6 years, I guess, in October. And Rod and his crew, they create new beer after new beer after new beer. So these flagship beers don't get it. They don't even, like, the fact that they're still surviving is a testament to how good they are, because everybody loves new, but these beers still sell big time because people come in and they'll try new, but then they want to go back to their home. And you brewed, Rod, and I want to know. Tell me it's not 100 yet, because when it's 100, I want to at least celebrate it on social. So we're gonna have to backdate. We're gonna have to backdate it. We're gonna have to do some illegal machinery because we haven't credited.
It's up there.
It's up there. We brewed towards 100 different recipes in our 6 years, and they're all amazing, and it's I'm so pleased, with it. But this West Coast and the flagship beers that we've tried so far we've only tried flagship beers, which is bitter, oat, and this one. They're just there. They're always there to go home to, and that's what Flora Hall's all about. Just go home to the hall, man, and just have a beer, try something new, but this will always be there.
I love that. I love that you even pointed that out, and I know we've been talking about it, but I didn't realize that we had 3 of the flagships. This is a pretty exceptional lineup of flagships, guys. Like, I feel like flagships have something that, I don't know, Nate, like, I feel like it's come up a lot more on the pod, and it's something that, like, I don't know if you guys have noticed, but I've found that maybe I'm more interested sometimes now. Before, I'm like, I feel like because we do this podcast and the social and blah blah blah, like, it's sort of maybe our responsibility to try more beers and to keep showcasing new stuff all the time. Hey, these guys are doing this and blah blah blah. But then there's something kind of just, I don't know, comforting, and just to be like, yo, like, I can get this beer year round, and this beer is fire, and it makes me happy, and I'm gonna rock this beer. And something like this West Coast, that's what Nate and I think were attracted to, as far as like, hey, you know what? If there's more, there isn't that many West Coasts. There really isn't, in comparison to other styles. So, when you find one that you love, you want to be able to continue to come back to that. And maybe it took those last 3 years to see that. Oh, sometimes you want that old, old reliable guy right there that you can always just come and hit. So, the volume of flagships you guys have, how many? So there's just 3. Was it? I know you said. I think you said you opened with 5 beers, but like, how many flagships would you say you have?
Yeah, we've got we've got 10 taps at the brewery. About 5 of them are kind of ones that are there all the time, or semi all the time. So yeah, I mean, flagships, I guess 5 or 6 we've got.
But they kind of rotate a bit.
Yeah, there's sometimes like. Usually there'll be like one of them that's off tap just for a little while.
I like that. That's smart. Scarcity. You got to keep them wanting.
Yeah.
So
we've got,
oh yeah.
It's
Dave,
scarcity, but it's also like, It honestly, for me, it's like, it's freshness. So like, I don't want to be brewing another beer and packaging another beer while there's still beer from the last batch there.
Gotcha.
I don't want to have to lift the kegs to rotate them, but it's more
annoying.
But I also it's freshness
Freshness is
is
key.
so key, and like we have we're lucky to be able to control that really well with having a really local footprint.
Yes.
And
yes.
we're not beholden to any. We've got some licensees. We make sure we keep them happy. So we've got we've always got beer for them for what they need, but we're not like beholden to like any big contracts where we have huge deliverables. We can always work around it. So if something's off tap for a little while, that's fine. But yeah, so 10 taps, 5 of them are regulars or core beers, flagships, whatever you want to call them, and then the other 5 are usually either one-offs or seasonal kind of beers.
So what would you say our flagship beers are? Like we because it's a hard question to answer. Like we have our bitter American oat, Northeast Stout,
bitter
from the West Coast.
Yeah, bitter Northeast West Coast American oat, stout, dry hop sour. Is that
dry hop sour? Yeah. And then one of the pilsners are now becoming
and a pilsner,
probably
and
Bohemians.
Bohemian's probably the most regular pilsner that we've got. Do the German a few times, Italian pilsner a few times. Probably do the New Zealand pilsner again pretty soon too. So yeah, we kind of have one of those pilsners on at all times. Right now we've got like 3 pilsners on, but
That's
awesome. So maybe 7. I don't know, 7 flagships.
Okay. That's fine.
Yeah.
We've only got 5
as we get older and older,
those.
there's going to be more flagships. Right? That's the thing.
Yeah.
It makes sense.
The list is definitely grown. Because like thinking back to the one to the ones that have kind of lasted since opening. I think because the ones that have lasted since opening, I think would have been the bitter, the Oat Pale, the Northeast, the West Coast. You guys, I remember you guys, and I remember you guys had the saison at the start, which not really anymore, right?
Yeah, we'll do sometimes we'll do. We had the farmhouse saison off the bat. It's not necessarily a regular for us anymore. When we do a saison, I like to kind of switch it up a bit.
Sure.
I love saisons. They're not necessarily like in my wheelhouse of brewing. I really love Brett saisons and things like that, but we can't really necessarily have a regular Brett saison, unfortunately.
I love that saison though. I love that farmhouse saison. It's so good.
Yeah, I love it too. A lot of it is like yeast management.
Right.
I'm kind of rocking three strains right now with the Bry 97, which is like the West Coast ale yeast, the Foggy London, W30 470 for our lagers now. And yeast is super expensive right now, so we can't really do a saison enough to not have to bring in a fresh pitch every time. For that. That's not necessarily the only reason. I mean, I love that beer and everything, but like I said, it's not necessarily my wheelhouse, I guess. And I have saisons from other breweries, and I'm like, man, they're doing it better than me, so I'll let them do it. And
see, I'm learning.
I love it. Don't get me wrong.
I didn't know this, but I'm good with that, Rod. I'm totally. Good
I haven't. I haven't.
You're getting revelation on
live here. Look at that.
Yeah, and I haven't come up with a recipe that I'm like, man, this is it. I want to keep doing it yet.
Right.
I guess.
What's the market
sometimes like the Brett sounds are like that, but anyway, sorry.
No, dude, you're good. I mean, coming from Quebec, and obviously you guys are in Ottawa and stuff. Like saisons were pretty popular out there, and I always felt like in Ontario they weren't as common. And now that I live here, I'm not seeing as many. What's the general demand? I imagine it's just sort of like a very kind of niche market who just like really wants a saison type of thing.
Yeah, I mean, we don't see a ton of demand. Maybe Dave, you see it, but I don't see a ton of demand for saisons. When I lived out west, there was like, I think they were more popular in terms of what I was seeing, where I was brewing. We kind of had more demand for it, and definitely in Quebec, a lot more demand for it. But yeah, I mean, for whatever reason, in Ontario here, in Ottawa at least, less demand.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's everywhere, or it's just our shop or whatever. But
I would say that it's a niche beer. There's no question about that. But it's a cult. It's again one of these cult kind of things. It's like people who love that. That's what they really want. When we have it, they're elated. You know.
Couldn't agree more. Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's very true, and I think. I think that's definitely true in Ontario, and I'm kind of in in a soft enthusiasm for that. Like I'm not as into it or as knowledgeable as as some of our friends that we know. We're friends with Noah, who does beerism in Quebec, and he's also got he knows the Ontario footprint as well, and he knows saisons way better than we do, and could talk about them really, really at length. But but it really is a cult following, of people, of people like him. And the thing is that the demand might not be obvious or very widespread, but they know where to go for it. And the handful of places that do it really, really well, that they'll be going back to them over and over and over again. It's one of those things that I think doesn't need to necessarily have a widespread presence for the cult following, because the people who want it will go to the people who are passionate about making it.
But Rod is modest, and I think our saison. Honestly, I think our saison was amazing, and I think that he brewed a farmhouse saison. He brewed a Belgian table beer. Like, you brewed a lot of beers in that style, and you're very capable. But
absolutely,
as I say to people when they're in the tap room, and they ask me about when's the and I hate to even say this in public, but when's the Mango Lassie IPA coming back, or when's this coming back, or when's what? And I'm like, listen, I have the beautiful out. It's like, I don't tell Rod what to brew. I don't tell Tim what to cook. And I said, that makes my life better and easier. And so, I don't know when it's coming back, but when it does, it'll be great. It'll be amazing.
I love that. I feel that, Dave. You don't want all that responsibility on those shoulders.
Well, I don't.
To be fair, the
Mango
Mango Lassie is really, really good.
Yeah, tell me about that. Tell me more about that one. That's
oh no, we don't even want to. Rod doesn't even want to.
No, it's okay. Yeah. No,
if you're not comfortable, Rod, it's okay, my bro. I put you on the spot.
No, you can talk about it.
No, it's good. Yeah, we've done it 3-4 times now.
Yeah, we do
usually around the fall. We'll do it around the fall.
Okay.
It's been a popular, but it's like one of those beers that's a pain in the ass every time we brew it. Yeah. I think we brew it different every single time because we're trying to
minimize
fix the problems we've had. But
is that with the fruit?
Yeah, it's like dry hopped and fruited, and sometimes lactose as well. So, the first time we brew it, add lactose in the kettle, then we'll how did we do it the first time? I think we dry hopped it, and then we added fruit right after, or we added fruit and then dry hopped right after. Anyway, dry hopped and fruited around the same time, which I realized was a terrible idea because the basically the hops did not drop out, so the bitterness on that just was through the roof, almost undrinkable, right? So
wow,
we had we packaged a small amount of it. We kind of gave it to some people. We drank it ourselves, and we realized, no, we cannot sell this. So we pulled it. We end up blending that batch down, kind of brewing another batch, blending it down, adding more fruit, kind of came up with something that was good. It was super, super popular. Second year, we said, okay, we're not going to dry hop and add fruit at the same time. We're going to ferment the fruit separately. Different tank, blend it. That one actually worked fairly well, I would say. This past one we didn't have the extra tank to do separate fermentation. So I said, okay, we're going to dry hop first. We're going to let that totally settle out, get the hops off as much as we can, and then we're going to fruit it. We kind of had like the same issue we did the first time to a lesser degree. We ended up fixing it somehow. I can't even remember how we fixed it, but it ended up being good as well. But every time it's a bit of a pain.
I'm sorry I even mentioned it. I shouldn't have mentioned
it. No, it's good. I do like the challenge, and it is something that like people remember from back in the day. There's also a little tiny bit of cardamom in there as well. It's just it does end up being a great beer. But,
it's an amazing beer. It's a beautiful beer. But yeah, the first time as you described, the fruit and the hops combining together in that suspension. It's the first time I ever walked into the bar and saw Rod, and at that time his co-brewer was Carly, who also came from out west, sitting there, and they're drinking their own beer. They're like not looking entirely pleased with the whole situation. And then I tried it. I'm like, no, I agree. Yeah, that one needs to
tweak that a
blended down.
No, you know what? Stories like this are great because it's it's a reminder that that creation of of these things is not there's a lot more that goes into it than what is just the final process. Like there's a lot of trial and error that goes into creating these products that are that is often not seen by the people consuming them.
Well, no, and that's also what impresses me and blows me away every time I try a new beer that they produce, is that you've never made this before, and it is amazing. And our customers feel that same way. They're like, and so when I tell them this is 100 beers or 100, 99 beer recipes, they're blown away. He's never made it. Oh, what's this beer? Oh, they've never made it before. Try it. And they're like, wow, never made it before. And I love that. And that's why people, that's I think, and Rod touched on it, we're small scale. Therefore, we can ensure freshness. The beers will be fresh because we make them in small quantities. We sell them through our tap room, cans, and a few licensees. They're super fresh. That's important. To me, that is craft beer. I struggle when it gets too big. I struggle when it goes too large, because then are you eroding the principles? You mentioned, Nathan, that there was nothing in Centertown. Now there is. There's a few breweries around, but breweries that are serving a small footprint, they make sense to me. And even when we were opening Flora, people, friends of mine were saying, "Are you sure? Aren't there too many already?" And I'm like, "No, there's not too many. There's not too many, because we've all got to stay nice and small, stay nice and local, neighborhood brewery. You get some overlap amongst the neighborhoods, of course, no problem. And there's room for 10 more. There's room for 20 more. And you just got to stay at the right scale. If everybody's competing for shelf space in the LCBO, of course, that's not going to work in the end. It's not going to work. But if you're, staying local, serving your community with super fresh beer, delicious beer, there's room for tons more. And that's what we should all want.
Definitely. Have you guys ever had a beer in the LCBO, or even just one SKU?
No, we have not. I'm not going to say, of course, experience tells me never say never. So I won't say never, but no, it's not really part of our picture right now. And I'm not sure if it will be. I will say that the model in Quebec makes a lot more sense. The breweries can go direct to dépanneur. They can find those specialty dépanneurs who are really interested and focused on beer, and who care about beer. and that works. LCBO, they're not really that interested in craft beer. I mean, let's agree.
Right.
They're interested in distribution. They're interested in making, in various different things, but they don't really suit a small provider such as ours. They really don't. I mean, we could sell through a few LCBOs here and there, but it's a terrible channel for a small scale producer.
Right.
And so if we want small scale producers, then we need a different channel. And the LCBO, they would never admit that they're not that interested in craft beer, but they're not that interested in craft beer. That would be my.
It seems to really depend on the store. Like some store, like you might get very lucky in some specific stores where you have a really motivated like beer manager, but like that seems to really be few and far between.
But therein lies the point. Is like if it relies on on the wants of an individual manager in a store in a government monopoly channel, you see the problem, right? It's a terrible channel. I mean,
absolutely.
So,
I agree. And when this happened, I was in Montreal still, and I think the most underspoken about and the greatest thing that happened in the pandemic was that it allowed restaurants and other establishments in Ontario to become independent bottle shops. I think that is the greatest shit of all time. I love it.
It's great.
It's
so
great,
dope, but the economics are still not very good.
Okay. Would it be okay? So on that point, and that's a very, very fair point, Dave. Would you say that it's an easier channel because there's no 6 to 12 month application process bullshit or whatever, but you could have a relationship with a couple of like in Hamilton, there's a bunch of great ones out here. I know there's a bunch of great ones in Toronto. Like I'm talking out of market for you guys, and you could have a relationship with 2 stores in Toronto, for example. And then you could just ship beer there every month or every 2 weeks or whatever it might be and just have a presence. And while the economics aren't mind-blowing because they are still forced to purchase it from you at retail, if I'm not mistaken, they can mark it up $1 or $2, which puts the onus on the consumer. But I don't know, one bonus is that if I'm in Toronto, I don't have to drive to Ottawa to get Flora Hall. That's worth paying $2 for. I have one here called Durand. It's a cafe. It's one of my favorite cafes, but it also has in my opinion, the best beer fridge in Ontario. And I know he goes to a lot of places to get the beers every week, within like maybe an hour drive. So I know instead of having to order online and pay shipping or buy 4-packs where I can buy one, I'm more than happy to do that because I want not only the breweries to stay in business, but I want him to stay in business because it allows me that choice.
Yeah, very valid, and absolutely. We have some examples up here in Ottawa too. There's
Lupulus, right?
Ottawa Valley. What are they called? Ottawa Valley Roaster? No.
Like the coffee shop.
Coffee guy.
Love it.
Yeah. Anyway, up in Empire and Renfrew, that's exactly what they do. See, they come into town, they go into town and beyond, and they pick up and they stock their fridge with amazing stuff. We're part of that. And that's absolutely perfect. That model works, and I think you're right. It's a backdoor kind of. We've arrived here through the COVID rule changes. Why not just liberalize it? Why not just make it that way? Like why not just allow us to go and sell direct to specialty retail shops?
Preach.
And that way, I think the economics would change for them and for us, where we could really get into it. It's kind of. I think it's a case in point. You're exactly right. You're willing to pay a little bit more. You're willing to frequent them, but they're that's the way the market should be in general. It shouldn't be a trick that came as a result of a door opening during COVID. It should be like this makes sense. Why don't we allow it?
So true.
And some of the craft brewers in Quebec have grown and scaled and prospered because of the ability to channel through depanneurs who are focused and specialized and really interested in craft beer.
100%.
Brewery wins and everybody.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a couple that I can think of, like Le Castor and Loctin are 2 breweries Maybe it's slightly different, but in any case, like there are breweries that don't really have any presence anywhere else except for in local shops. Like they just do 100% distro. They don't really sell out of their own front door. They're not really in any bars and restaurants. Like they just rely almost on 100% distro, because the network allows for that. And
Right.
like there can be enough of a profit margin in that, in that alone, and I think to your point, Dave, that just doesn't exist in Ontario with this because it's a bit of a patchwork system that is just
Yeah.
left over from 2020, 2021.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah.
It's just all so ridiculous when you look at the liquor laws and all, like, and unfortunately nowhere is perfect. Like I know even in the States where like every state is different. One thing that pissed me off about living in Montreal is that I couldn't get any brewery that's like, far east in Quebec City, whatever, to ship to me because they're not allowed to do that.
Yeah.
But at least in Ontario, one thing it is great is the direct from the brewery ordering system. I love that. I think that is phenomenal. But even in the States, when I was in Florida for a month, I was like sick. I'm in the States for a long time. I could finally order, and I could find fuck all breweries that would ship to Florida. And I think it was like every single state has different rules about which breweries in which states can ship to that state. So I found it just as ridiculous as the Canadian system. Like it wasn't any better in my opinion,
Nowhere is perfect. Really, nowhere is perfect.
And it's like everything's left over from the 20s. The law in Quebec was the 1928 law from the fucking Depression, bro. Like, and they're still living off that. And it's so obscene that and like you guys were just saying, like, that the fact that we had this little mini kind of quasi open window that we got from 2020, 2021. Great. It's cool. It's progress. But it's not enough, and it's absurd. And so many you think about how I heard a number. I don't know if it was true, but I heard 10,000 restaurants across Canada close their doors in during the those few years. So like,
I would have no doubt.
And then that's just restaurants. What about all the other businesses? So why not? Doesn't that? I feel like this time should have put it in perspective. That like, hey everyone, like, you know what? We've got a lot of restrictions in place for businesses that stop them, particularly in alcohol world. We don't want this to go away. They're the fabric of our society. So why not just like get rid of them because they're from, I don't know, 100 years ago. So, how about we just move on? And they still didn't do it. And it's, I don't know.
Yeah.
It's disappointing. It's unfortunate. But I mean, we proceed, we move on, we do what we got to do. But hopefully they'll...
And then it actually stimulates beer sales. The frustration you're expressing stimulates beer sales.
Hey, that's a good point because, like, you know what? It's like the underground economy almost. Like, I'm gonna get this shit however I damn well can.
Well, it's also just the frustration. You need the beer.
Yeah.
So, Rod, what should we have
Definitely.
for? I mean, I'm not sure if are we having our last one?
We can do whatever you want to do.
Yeah, this will probably be the one to bring it home. But yeah, let's. What do you reckon?
Doing, folks?
Look,
should we do? What do you guys want? I mean, we got. Okay.
We're cool to leave it to you, man. It's your call.
You guys feel like?
On you.
I know. We've done all these core beers. Okay, you know what? Let's do. Okay with you. You guys, you want to do the Foeder Pilsner?
Let's do it.
Yeah.
Let's fucking do it.
Okay.
I like that. That's a
Yeah.
twist. That's a twist. Reversing the
All
order.
core beers.
Rod doesn't give a fuck. He's like, we're gonna do how I do it, guys. I like it.
I kind of want to get you guys' opinion on that.
Well, Crispies are my personal favorite style currently, so I'm extremely.
I'm
excited. When I
excited.
saw it was. Go on, Nick.
Yeah, I'm excited for this because I've had the Bohemian Pills before. I know it's good. I've not had this one yet.
And
Yeah,
Foeder,
so this
any
is,
wood pilsners, wood Crispies are something truly special. So I'm ready. So I imagine you have a Foeder.
We have 3 Foeders. We installed them.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow. I got to come visit again.
So yeah, we installed those November or late October, early November of 2022. So yeah, this is the Bohemian Pilsner, aged for 3 months in the Foeder.
Okay.
We have one of our Foeders has a like a chill plate, so we keep it at about 5 degrees Celsius.
Okay.
So yeah, it picks up a lot of the wood, but it really changes the flavor from the straight Bohemian Pils. So I think you guys also have a Bohemian Pilsner there. Try it later. Just like the flavor profile's quite different.
Okay. I love this idea. Have you done more than just the pills in the Foeder at all?
Yeah. We've done. First one we got out of there was English Old Ale.
Ooh.
So we.
I'm
So
trying to find a picture of the pills of the Foeder so I can put them up on the screen here.
Yeah.
But you carry on, Rod, please.
Yeah, so did an English Old Ale. It was a 7.5%, I want to say. Really malty, oaky beer. We've done a couple batches of the Foeder Pils. We're about to release like a Brett Blonde, basically. It's a Belgian blonde ale, aged in Foeder with Brett C.
Alrighty.
But still relatively new to us, these Foeders. So,
Well, cheers, legends.
cheers.
Cheers.
Oh, damn.
So there's a little picture, if I can. I don't know if I.
Closer to your glorious head there, Dave.
Yeah, put it right in front of your
All right,
face, Dave.
closer to my head. Closer to my head.
There you go. Yeah.
That's a little. It's a little antique.
All right, you got 3 of them. Okay.
After a few pints, it's true.
Who even knows where
they're
your
on
head
the
is?
back.
I never know.
They're on the back shelf at Flora,
That's
and we originally had wine barrels up there. We engineered that shelf to accommodate a certain weight, and the wine barrels that ran there. Of course, we had a bunch of nice, beautiful barrel-aged sours produced out of those, and then we're like, okay, those are done. And I said to Rod, what are we going to do? We're going to refresh those barrels. And he looked into that, and we came up with the Foeder idea, and then boom.
Love it.
Talked to the structural engineer to make sure that they're still going to be supported by that very shelf that we designed. And they are. But he's produced some beauties already. I mean, how many beers so far? Like really three beers? You had the English Old Ale, the
3,
Foeder,
soon to be
Pilsner,
4.
and then you're about to put one in the bottle for aging, right?
Yeah, it's already in bottle. Just waiting for bottle conditioning and label to show up. So yeah, that'll be the Brett Blonde.
Brett Blonde. How long was it lagered in the Foeder?
This one, I'd say about 3 months.
Wow. That's crazy. I feel like this is not the most common thing with when there's crispies in oak. Ooh. Yeah, it's. I know I'm gonna have to try the original to get the context, but talk us through the. Sorry, Dave. Go on, brother.
No, I was gonna say the crispiness. Yeah, the crispiness is underneath. Like the oak definitely is, and it's new oak. So
it's kind of neutral.
We're gonna find out. Rod's gonna find out, like over time, like how much time do these beers need to spend in here. So this beer came out. Was this the first one you produced out of that particular? Well, out of that vessel, yes, right out of the chill plate vessel.
It's actually the second batch of Foeder Pils.
This is fresh. This is like 20 days ago from today.
Yeah.
Canned,
so nice.
Anyway.
So nice.
Can you guys talk us through the tasty notes of this one? Because this is fascinating.
Yeah, so you probably what I get off this is like pear, green apple pear. Initially, I get a little bit of that kind of like vanilla-y oak flavor on the tail end. Mm-hmm. A little bit, little tannic maybe from the oak. A like astringency, kind of lingering astringency after that. But yeah, I mean, you can still get a little bit of like the Saaz hop spiciness kind of coming through.
It's Saaz, right?
Yeah, Saaz. Yeah. So yeah, if you like the original or like the I guess the base beer that went in there really has like a isoamyl acetate, like banana kind of characteristic to it, and I'm really finding like that kind of almost turns into like acetaldehyde, like green apple-y kind of flavor. Really getting like just a total transformation of flavors on this from the original beer.
I'm definitely getting some spices too, like maybe a little peppery or something.
Yeah,
in there.
okay, yeah.
And
Definitely.
then like a hint of floral kind of in the back end alongside that like vanilla oak. This is fascinating.
It's so good.
That spicy.
I'm
That
still wrapping
spiciness,
my head
I
around
think, that spiciness, I think, is what you're pulling off of like the base Bohemian pills, I would say.
Right.
Like the Saaz is doing that.
That would make sense.
Should we try the Bohemian just before we finish since we're here, and then we go, and then we call it a day? Like, should we just try it side by side, because it is
Sure.
You have it in your box.
We could do
You might
it.
as well
I'm
try
game.
it, right?
I'm game.
not
Let's
afraid.
do it.
Let's do it. Yeah, let's
The only glass I have less is an IPA glass, so I find that
Wow.
I think that's going to work well. Yeah, you know what? I actually really would like to try them side by
Good
side.
idea.
So,
Yeah,
let's do it.
just because.
Yeah, let's fucking do it.
I'm actually learning a little bit as we talk, because I didn't know that it was a full on Bohemian going in, as into that process. But I love this beer, but it bears a relationship to the Bohemian. But man, they're so different.
it's quite different. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like even the appearance, right? It's hard to see, I guess, there, but
I'm going to grab a more appropriate glass. I'll be back in just a moment, but keep talking about it. I won't be long.
Yeah. Have you had this one in the brewery, Nathan?
I have.
Foeder,
Yes.
or is that the first time you tried it? Okay.
No. I have had this one a couple times. In fact, the first time that I tried it, you probably remember this, Dave, back in, I think it must have been 2018, something like that, when we had that yoga event at the brewery that Jen did, and when we did the tour afterwards, we had a taste right out the tank.
Yeah. Of the Bohemian, yeah.
Of the Bohemian, yes.
Yeah.
We got to do another event like that. I love when, I love beer and
Yeah,
yoga
we'll do
events,
that
and
again.
I think that was the first one.
I think you're right. I think that yoga event was outstanding, and
It really was.
of course, everybody got knocked off their game in those 2 forgotten years, and we'll do that again. Right? Yeah, absolutely.
I would love that.
Well, even actually, I think it's true that I got knocked off my yoga game. I do my yoga at home. I didn't go out. I kept my subscription up at Pure throughout that entire 2-year period, just to support them. But
Same.
I just got into the habit of doing it somewhere else,
Right.
as in my home. I haven't gone back, and it's not because I don't want to go back. I love going back, but I just got into a different habit. I should go back.
Yep.
I'm feeling
No,
guilty.
and that
I'm going back.
does and that does happen. Yeah, you should. Should absolutely go back. I've been going back less often than I used to, but that's more just because I have a 1-year-old baby right now.
Yeah.
But I'm still going back now a couple times a month.
And I would be. I meant to open this up at the beginning. I would be remiss without mentioning that you brought your 1-year-old baby into the hall, and I said to Sarah Rod, I said, just give Nathan this and this and this. Like, give him a beer one beer, blah blah blah, times 2 4-packs. And by the time he left, he had a 4-pack of of all 8 beers. So plus the stout. Plus
she
the
thought you
bacon.
said 2
It's
4-packs of each beer. Yeah.
Yep.
And I told her, she was like, oh, I didn't understand. I said, don't worry about it. I said, yeah, the beer will be well used. He's a beer expert. It'll be well used.
Oh yeah. I did some reorganizing of his stroller, and I was able to get it all home. I was saying to Sarah, it's a good thing I brought the stroller because I'm only a 10-minute walk from you guys, and I was initially thinking of bringing him in the carrier, and I'd have been in trouble if I had to carry all that home by hand. It was a good thing I did bring him in the stroller.
You began
all right,
Uber
so
with
now
that.
we have them side by side. We have the
Yes.
Foeder Pilsner and the Bohemian side by side, so we can now get a little bit of commentary about that, and then.
Yes. So, did you guys sip it yet, or were you waiting for me?
Oh yeah. No, always waiting for you.
We've been
waiting for you.
You guys are. Did I tell you you're beautiful humans? All right, let me get this photo, and then it's gonna be all mouth. There we go. All right, legends. Cheers.
Cheers. Really nice couple of hours, yeah?
Yeah, likewise. Oh, nice. Okay, I think I get it already. No, this has been a fantastic conversation, guys. I've very much enjoyed it. Okay, so the OG is exactly, it's straight German. Is this would be the Saaz as well, I imagine?
Yeah.
Yep.
Saaz and Weyermann, Weyermann Bohemian Pilsner malt.
Okay.
Saaz W3470 yeast. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. And this is also the same ABV, so 5%, so you've kept it the same.
Yeah.
I want to sit on this for a second. A nice like kind of bready. Once again, I'm still getting that peppery vibe from the Saaz in the nose. Super clear. So in comparison, even if I want to just quickly hold them up,
Yeah, appearance is different.
it's slightly looking on the table. It looked more different than it is holding it up in front of the light right now.
Yeah,
It's a little
so
dark.
There's a
There's-
little bit of murkiness from the Foeder Pilsner. For
Yeah.
sure. A little
Yeah, I
Yeah,
agree.
so like
I
the,
agree. Just a tiny bit of cloudiness to it.
Oh my god, the nose is night and day. My gosh,
yeah, it's totally different.
They are.
it's a good idea, Dave.
But there is. That's why I wanted to try them side by side, because
Yeah.
there's a fascination, because it's like there is a parent-child relationship here. There's no question about it.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's really interesting.
We'll
what
add a little finings to the Bohemian Pils, but with the Foeder Pils, we decided not to, just to try and keep some of those original flavors in. Maybe we will in the future. I'm not sure, but still, like I said, still trying to wrap my head around that, what's happening there, and how we can.
It's a whole new pro. Like you said, you've only
it,
done how many beers in the Foeder? 3?
So yeah, 3 beers, 2 of them. This is the second of the Pils.
Man, it's going to take time. I mean,
Yeah.
it's a whole other instrument, even more so than barrels and stuff like that. From what I understand about Foeders, anyway. This OG is like classic, extremely refreshing. It's got a nice dryness to it, grassy, spicy, bready. Did I say that already? Maybe I didn't say that already.
Yeah.
Yeah, the super crushable. Exactly what you would expect from the style.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really good.
Yeah. Yeah, I really love it. Like, do you guys have a Luca tap at all, by any chance?
Yeah. Should we?
You do?
We rock the yeah. So we do the boho
town.
on that, the Bohemian on that.
Stop it.
Yeah, it's nice.
There's
nice.
honestly, I don't know if there's anything better. That's probably my favorite thing of the last however many. Whenever I discovered it 4 years ago or something, which is late, but good lord, it is the greatest. It's the greatest thing known to humans. It's phenomenal.
We just got one. I don't know, 6 months ago or something. It's been
Amazing.
great. Love it. Yeah, love it.
Do you put?
And while we're talking about that, it's worth mentioning as well that your oatmeal stout, available on Nitro is just divine. There's two spots in the city that do that. Like Tooth and Nail does Fortitude on Nitro, and Flora Hall's oatmeal stout on Nitro. Just
Money.
chef's kiss.
Yeah, beautiful mouthfeel, beautiful beer. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so
Yeah.
the OG
it's just a delightful way to serve such a good beer.
Could not agree more. All of these serving,
But the Bohemian with the side pour, it's analogous. It really is. It's like you look at it and you're like, well, okay, it really does change the drinking experience. It really does. Yeah.
Yeah, it would for sure.
And now with them side by side, it's like there's like a fruitiness with the Foeder. If that's it's probably not the most intricate word, but there's
there is that added complexity there for sure.
Yeah. What is that?
So I mean, my best guess is so first thing that comes to mind is acetaldehyde. It's like green apple.
That's the green apple.
Yep.
Okay.
You know what I mean? So I'm like, how the hell did that happen? How does this green apple happening? What I think is going on is I think there's like a slow oxygen ingress through the oak, which can actually essentially ferment alcohol itself into acetaldehyde. So I believe that's what's going on. That's my best guess. Guess to what's going on. Yeah.
Interesting. Sorry, guys. I'm just changing my battery. It'll be.
Yeah, no worries.
Now, should I? So, Rod, are you telling me I should get a discount from the Foeder maker? The oxygen's getting in? No, I'm just joking. It's like
let's get him on the line.
Maybe.
Let's get him on the blog.
Maybe. I'm a little. I mean, I haven't seen a lot of oxygen ingress through the other two Foeders. My thought is the lower temperature on this one is causing the wood to kind of contract a little bit.
The wood contracts, exactly. I love that.
Yeah,
but I mean, that's what I love about the whole thing is as you said, it's a new tool. It's a new thing. And that was why we bought it. That's why we got it. Like Rod and I talked about what could we possibly put up on that shelf there, and we looked at different things. And this is just another little tool in the hands of super skilled people to see what they can produce. And so I love the organic nature of it. Maybe there is some oxygen. Maybe there, you're gonna. It's like
okay.
playing a musical. It's a musical instrument, right? I mean, you're gonna get to know what it does, what it doesn't do for you, and figure out how to produce beautiful beers out of it. So yeah, I'm so excited by that.
It's very cool, and there's no other way to do it but experiment and time. So it's and already though, it's fantastic, and it's so uniquely different to the original, which is the intention, really, right? Is. So it's
I think it works. Like I said, I'm not saying I think it's perfect or anything. I definitely think this is a work in progress, but it's super interesting, and I do like it. It's
very cool.
The flavors play well with each other, I think.
Hell yeah. Do you on over and above the Foeder, do you guys have a barrel program at all?
Not at the moment. We don't have really. We have 4 kind of Chardonnay white wine barrels still in the brewery. We're not using them really right now.
Okay.
We did have another 8 red wine barrels that we've replaced with the Foeders right now. So.
Well, and I mean, we do have a barrel program because in the basement of my house right here, I've got 300 bottles of barrel aged apricot sour that he put in there in 2020 that are going to come into the market because he's now finally produced a beer that is also bottle aged that I can put down there. So we're going to replace the apricot sour is going to come in into the retail shop whenever those other bottles come to me. So
Keep replacing them.
It's good.
Bottle condition.
Keep replacing them.
Yeah. See, that's cool.
The other barrels have gone to my father, who's making furniture out of them right now.
Well, the barrels are gone. The barrels are now
Out of
planters and chairs. And
I've always
There you
wanted a
go.
barrel. I think they look just sick. It's just cool to have in the yard or some shit.
Yeah.
I saw
Okay,
I saw in some Instagram stories today that Badlands are making tap handles out of old barrels now.
Oh, wow.
Nice, yeah. Old staves, yeah. It's a good idea.
You gotta do something with them bad boys. That's sick, but it's like, at least, I feel like Foeders are maybe less common as well. They're probably more expensive and sort of harder to come by, and I don't find them the most, they're not in too many places. So I think it's really interesting. And now that I'm actually thinking about it, I don't even know if I've ever had a Foeder Pilsner before.
well,
Definitely had.
I definitely
You're
haven't.
first.
I definitely haven't.
Pop the old cherry. It's I feel like it's very different to an oak pilsner, like a barrel pilsner. There's like the descriptions you were giving before there, Rod, were that out green apple and the pear and stuff. For whatever reason, if it's an auction coming through the wood, like it's a unique beer, and that's the intention of offering that. And so I like, because you haven't even done that many beers through it. It's just barely scratching the surface, probably, of what you're able to do through these things, which is sick.
Yeah. I mean, we're gonna see where it goes with these things. One thing I would mention with the Foeders is like just the functionality for us right now. Like when we had those barrels up there, it was just really hard to work on them. We had them up there for like 5 years, really, and we've already in the last 6 months produced more beer out of those Foeders than we did out of those barrels. So just having the valves, having the instrumentation on there, it just makes it so much easier to work with. And I don't know if you've been in the hall, like they're way up on the in the rafters. So
Right.
When the barrels were there, we're up on the rafters, and I had to like empty the first, the top barrel, lift it by hand, get the bulldog into the bottom barrel and put it down.
Right.
It was
That's
pretty dodgy. It's pretty dodgy working up there, and now it's like
that's the craft.
I fear for my life less.
Right there.
Fear for my life less. Is that the episode name? I fear for my life less.
And therefore, we've made more beer out of them. Not just therefore, but like it's
No,
the functionality
point.
means like we're kind of constantly paying attention to them more than we were the barrels that we get.
I mean, I guess that when you put it like that, I know you're joking, but like you're also serious that like there's more beer. Because food, it doesn't need to sit as long to be impacted, I guess. And the barrel program is just a different concept, and it is a lengthier by nature thing. So if you're able to have a Foeder that you can turn things over faster, there's more value to the brewery than that. And if you're gonna have a barrel program, well, that would be a different thing, and that doesn't maybe have to be in the rafters. You can have these Foeders that are a little more effective, and you can pump something out in a few months, as opposed to for barrels that have to be 6 to 12 really to really impact it, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, I guess like yes and no. Like like maybe a few years from now, we're gonna have to leave it in the Foeders for longer to really have that impact. But because it's like new wood, we're really getting a lot of oak out of it at the moment. And I think if you're running like a barrel brewery or something, you're probably you've probably got a little more functionality built into your brewery as well. So
you have to
you're in a different setting. I mean, we're in a downtown space where space is a premium. So
that's it. So it's not
Foeders work for beautiful.
What other beers have you guys, if you can talk about it, have you got in mind for the Foeders? Like, is there anything else that you going to put in there that you can speak about?
Yeah, I mean, we've got an Imperial Stout in there right now.
Hell yeah.
9.5%. Not really sure what we're gonna do with that yet. It's already tasting great. We're just gonna think about what we're gonna do with it. The one of the Foeders, like the one that we've taken the what we're calling the Brett Blonde out of. So we put like a Belgian blonde, like Ardennes fermented blonde ale into that with some Brett C. We took about like 60% out of volume out of that, replaced it with like a Belgian double, so it's kind of like an amber Brett right now. The thought is to kind of Solera that a little bit.
Gotcha. Keep filling it up.
Eventually, keep filling it up. Right now, it's just Brett C in there, but maybe we'll add some more Brett. Maybe we'll get into lacto, and who knows, like PDO eventually. So I think they're just going to be kind of evolving. You know what I mean? That's really the only ones that we've got plans for right now. I don't know. I kind of like don't plan too far ahead.
And that's
like
fine.
as soon as I have a tank, or like see a tank opening up or a Foeder opening up, then that's kind of when we, as a team, discuss what we're gonna do and put in.
And therein lies, I think, the definition of Flora Hall. It's like that's what we want. That's what I want. That's what I want. I want Rod waking up in the morning and going to work. And what are we going to brew? What are we going to do? Talking to his people, and that's why we produce beer after beer after beer after beer, which is unique and delicious and amazing. And that's what we will always do. We commit on this podcast to do that for the rest of time.
Look at that.
We will not be predictable.
I love that.
We will be constantly changing, and that's what it's all about.
Hell yeah!
I love that.
This is great. Nate, go.
It really is. And Rod, I'll tell you right now something I would love to see again. That Vermont-style double IPA that you did, for the last anniversary. I fucking love that one. I would love to see that one come back.
Oh man, that was another one of those like pain in the ass beers, but I'm like so glad to hear that you like that.
I really did. I really did.
That's good.
What was it called?
This is also the story of my life. I'm trying to create this, like, we'll always produce new beers, and when I'm in the tap room, that's like, but what about this one? What about why doesn't Rod make this one? And
that one in particular was like a stress.
There's Nate, he's like dropping with the top ropes. He's dropping right on me. He's like, what about this one?
Anyway, Dave, make it happen.
I love the fact that people love beers that we've made before, but we will make them before. We will make them again, but we'll also always be making new beers.
Yeah.
No, I love that too.
That's the beauty of it, to be honest. Because when it does come back, you're like, you appreciate it. And I think that's like the antithesis to a flagship, where people maybe get a little numb to it, where they don't realize how good it is. Like, having these three beers, at least for me tonight, my first time trying these I'm like, these are fantastic. But these are year round? Are you kidding me? Like, I wouldn't normally consider these to be year round beers, because they were also like, not that I just feel like flagships get fronted on a lot. And I would say I'm probably guilty of that too, because it's always there. So you're like, I can get it whenever. So there's something to be, you make something like that's a one-off, that you do that one-off twice a year or 3 times a year or something, and you just got to catch it when it drops. I don't know. That method to me, I think, is even cooler, because you know that if you miss it for whatever reason, then you're like, you're going to be mad, but you know it's going to kind of come back at some point, but you don't know when.
Yeah.
You don't know when. I don't know when.
Yeah, and you guys not knowing when is even cooler.
Yeah,
and it's no secrets.
and I can speak as a local consumer, and I've had the the ordinary bitter a couple of times. I've definitely had the American Oat and the West Coast IPA several times before, and it's a treat every time. And for me, a standout like the West Coast IPA, very fucking nice. As a flagship goes, that's one I'm always excited to have over and over and over again.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's important that you guys seem to have found a nice balance for everything that you're doing, and it just makes sense, and you guys have a nice rhythm, and that rhythm includes a lot of randomness, and that's the beauty of what Flora Hall is that randomness,
Yes.
and that you can pop in, and you'd be like, all right, what's going on, whether you're a local or an out-of-towner, and you almost don't even know what you're going to get, and that's the point of craft beer, I guess, is, there might be some reliables in there, that maybe you've had the Oat Pale Ale before and you're going to rock up again, and maybe you haven't had it in 6 months. You're like, yes, it's here again. And then also you're going to have something random. Strawberry Rhubarb Goza that's coming out tomorrow, but even though the podcast comes out next week, but it'll be out by the time you guys hear this. Oh, yeah. Things like that. I think that's really cool. And you guys have seemed to have found a really nice balance of what works for you. And I think that's the most important, what works for you two and the team and for the consumers and what they expect. And, it's great, and you've been able to bring craft beer to Centertown in Ottawa, and it's just it's the best location. I just feel like it's so dope. We used to I'm a big fan of coffee, so my friend used to be a manager at the Arlington 5, like literally the street over.
Amazing.
So
amazing,
go there,
amazing.
get a
Great
coffee,
place.
get some food, and come up to Flora Hall, get beers, and get more food. And then you go and cruising around Ottawa. It's the perfect location, man, and it's love it. Big fan of everything you guys are doing. It's been very, very cool to hear the thinking behind it all and the intention and the way you guys, have worked together all of this time, all this, coming up on 6 years. It's dope. Speaking of that, is there anything, I mean, I know it's like 5 months away, but is there anything planned that you can speak of for October for 6 years?
Obviously, he's got to brew the mango lassi IPA.
Obviously, and the
well,
double for one.
Last year we did 5 new beers for 5 years, and I don't think I can do 6 this year. I honestly don't know. We'll probably rock the mango lassi, and
there we go. Committing publicly.
We're also gonna do something else, but I haven't thought of it yet.
Yeah, right on. I love that.
We'll have some
we don't
good.
Need to know yet.
We're also saving a
too
couple
soon
of
to tell.
things. I got a little bit of the old ale stashed away as well.
Nice.
So bring that back. We'll have a few new ones for sure.
That's awesome. Excited for that. Was there anything else we needed to make sure that we touched on this evening, fellas? That we may not have got to.
I don't think so.
We're good. I think it was
Feeling
a great
good?
night. Great to talk to you.
Man.
Yeah.
Great to talk to you.
Likewise,
Super
man.
good.
I really enjoyed this conversation. I knew I would, man. I don't know why. There's something about you guys. I think the first time I went to Flora Hall, we were with Dominion City. We went to their brewery, and they had a speech. Ren did a talk there, and we all went.
Yes.
Were you there? Yeah, we all went on the bus. They got like these.
We were all there after.
Not a bus. What do you call it? Like those fucking, like soccer mom vans for taxis, and we all went out.
I mean, there was a bit of a group carpooling thing going on.
That's what you want to call it. And we all went to Flora Hall. That was the first thing. The whole team, Josh took everyone. We all went out there. And I think that was my first time. And basically every trip to Ottawa since then, I always made sure I swing by because I was like, man, this place is cool as hell. And everyone's so nice. And the next time my girlfriend and I went, we went and ate some food, and it was fantastic. And, been a fan for quite some time, so I was very, very happy you guys were down to hang out with us tonight and share the story and share some beers. And so I very much appreciate you both, man, for real. I think you guys have created something very, very cool and very needed in the area. And I don't know, I kind of love you guys even more now that I've heard the whole story.
We look forward to seeing you next time.
Oh, we'll be back in. So we're gonna wrap up here. Stick around once we cut it off, and we'll finish up off air. But where can everybody find Flora Hall online and of course in real life?
Well, online, florahallbrewing.ca. at Flora Hall Beer on Instagram, at Flora Hall Brewing on Facebook, and in real life, which is the best life, let's face
damn right.
it, 37 Flora Street, corner Bank of Flora, Centertown, Ottawa. Come and see us.
That's it. Ask for Dave. Ask for Rod. Ask for hugs. They'll give them to you. Don't you worry about that.
We will.
Ask for Mango Lassie IPA. They'll have it ready.
That's true.
That's not true. That's not true. I take that back. I recant that.
We will.
Oh, Rod said it, guys.
Once a year.
I'm gonna take a screenshot. Do you guys want to, for the thumbnail? Do you guys want to hold up some of the beers here? Some of the cans, so we can look all nice in the photo, so people can see. Hold up these gorgeous bad boys. I'm gonna go these twins, these little Pilsner twins right here. You see the vibes?
Yeah.
There we go.
I loved it. I love everything about this beer.
Closer to that pretty head.
Yeah.
Yep, there you go.
Don't block the head. Don't block that head, Dave. We need the head in there. There we go. Are we ready? Done. Beautiful. Boys, once again, thank you again for your time. This is a genuinely fantastic podcast. Really, really enjoyed the convo. We'll finish up offline, but everybody, thank you for watching and listening. If you enjoyed the episode, smash the thumbs up, hit subscribe below, and hit the notification bell, Nathaniel.
Ding.
So you know when the new drops. Follow us everywhere at BAOS Podcast. We drop new episodes every Wednesday. We drop the audio in the morning and the video in the evening, so make sure you check that out. Follow us, so give us that 5-star in Spotify and Apple Podcasts. You know the vibes.
Yeah.
And
5-star.
See, Dave said it. Dave, see, how can you look at that? He is the statesman of craft beer in Ottawa, and if he said it, you have to listen to Dave. Gentlemen, this has been a pleasure. I really appreciate you both. Thank you again. This was a lot of fun, and everyone will see you in the next episode. Cheers, y'all.
Cheers.